I was about to start my car to attend my son's will reading when a desperate voice cut through the morning air. "Don't start that engine." My neighbor's warning changed everything I thought I knew about my daughter-in-law. And when she finally saw me alive at the will reading, she fainted. What happened in between is a story of betrayal, greed, and a fight for truth that I never wanted, but had no choice but to face. The morning sun had barely crept above the suburban rooftops when I stood in my driveway, straightening the knot of my black tie. Today wasn't just another day. It was the day I would hear my son Michael's last words through his will. He had been gone for just 3 weeks. 3 painful, confusing weeks that left more questions than answers. The world saw Michael as a visionary, a cybersecurity entrepreneur who had built a company worth $40 million from scratch. But to me, he was still my boy, the kid who took apart the family computer just to see how it worked, then put it back together better than before. I had no idea that as I reached for my car door, my life was about to be ripped open by the ugliest truth imaginable. "Don't start that engine." The shout came from across the street. I froze, hand on the door handle. My neighbor, Tom Henderson, sprinted across his lawn in his robe and slippers, his breath ragged, his face tight with panic. "Seth," he gasped when he reached me. "Step away from the car." Confused, I did as he said. My keys trembled in my grip. "Tom, what on earth is going on?" He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Last night, 11:30, I saw Emily, your daughter-in-law, at your car. Hood open. She was working under there for 15 minutes. When she realized I was watching, she slammed it shut and ran." My stomach dropped. Emily? The same Emily who would inherit everything from Michael today? The same Emily whose crocodile tears at the funeral hadn't fooled me for a second? "You're sure?" I whispered. "As sure as I've ever been," Tom said firmly. His years as a retired police officer gave his words weight. "She parked down the street, not in your driveway. Deliberate, stealthy. Seth, I've seen plenty of crime scenes. This has all the signs. Do not drive that car." I looked at the vehicle. My sedan of 8 years, reliable as an old friend. From the outside, it looked perfect, but my engineering mind immediately ran through possibilities. Brake lines, steering, fuel system. Any of them tampered with, and a drive on the highway into downtown Chicago could end in a fatal accident. My throat tightened. If Tom hadn't spoken up, this morning might have been my last. "Thank you, Tom," I said hoarsely. "You may have just saved my life." But saving my life was only the beginning. Because if Emily had truly done this, then Michael's death, 3 weeks ago, might not have been the mystery illness the doctors claimed. Called Eddie Riley, my longtime mechanic and friend. Within 20 minutes, his service van pulled up my driveway. He wheeled out a portable lift, tools clanking like weapons on a battlefield. "What's the problem?" he asked. "Tampering," I said flatly. "Possible sabotage. My neighbor saw my daughter-in-law under the hood last night." His expression hardened. "Let's take a look." The car rose slowly, revealing its underbelly like a patient awaiting diagnosis. Eddie's flashlight beam danced across the brake system, then froze. "Right here," he muttered. "Cuts on the brake lines. Clean, deliberate." I stepped closer. Thin slashes sliced through the rubber tubing, almost invisible. Not frayed, not aged, surgical. "Whoever did this," Eddie continued, "knew exactly what they were doing. These cuts would hold pressure at first. After a few miles, they'd burst. At highway speed, you'd lose all braking. Fatal." Cold sweat beaded my forehead. "And here," Eddie added, pointing to loosened tie rods. "Steering tampered with. Gradual instability until total loss of control." This wasn't vandalism. This was murder, dressed up as an accident. My knees nearly buckled. Emily, my son's widow. The woman he had trusted. The woman I had suspected of manipulation, but never dared accuse. Eddie photographed everything. Every angle, every cut. "This is evidence," he said firmly. "Take it to the police. Now." But I had another plan. Emily thought I'd die before the will reading. She expected to sit smugly in that law firm conference room, collecting her $40 million with no opposition. Instead, I would walk through those doors alive, and I would watch her mask shatter. The taxi ride downtown was a blur of skyscrapers and stoplights. I clutched my briefcase with Eddie's photos inside. My mind churned with images of Michael, his broad smile, his relentless drive. His text message, the week before he died. Dad, if something happens to me, be careful with Emily. At the time, I'd brushed it off. Morphine, paranoia. Now it burned like prophecy. Doctors had written his death off as unknown gastrointestinal complications. 3 weeks from perfect health to the grave. Emily had controlled his care, chosen the doctors, restricted visitors. My son, the man who protected banks and hospitals from cyber attacks, hadn't realized the greatest threat slept beside him. As the taxi pulled up to Reynolds, Mitchell and Associates, the law firm towered above me like a fortress of glass and steel. I paid the driver and stepped onto the marble steps, every stride fueled by rage and grief. Emily was already there in the reception lounge, legs crossed, flipping through a fashion magazine. Her black designer dress clung to her like armor. When she saw me, the magazine slipped from her hands. Her face drained of color. "Seth," she stammered. You thought I wouldn't make it," I finished. My voice was calm, but every word burned. She tried to recover, forcing a smile. "Of course not, I just meant you're late." I leaned closer. "My neighbor saw you at my car last night, Emily, with tools. 15 minutes under the hood. Care to explain?" Her jaw tightened. "That's ridiculous. Why would I ever?" "The same reason you controlled Michael's doctors. The same reason he texted me a warning before he died. The same reason my brake lines were cut." For a flicker of a second, her mask slipped. The cold calculation in her eyes was unmistakable. Then it vanished, replaced by trembling lips and crocodile tears. "You're grieving," she whispered. "Grief makes people imagine things." "Brake lines don't cut themselves," I replied evenly. Other clients in the reception area glanced over. Emily straightened, regaining her composure. "Well," she said icily, "whatever you think you know, it doesn't matter. Michael left me everything. $40 million. You get nothing." Her arrogance was a knife to my chest. My son had worked himself into the ground for that fortune. Not for luxury penthouses and designer handbags, but to protect people, to build a legacy. And she had turned his death into a shopping spree. The will reading began. We sat in a glass-walled conference room overlooking Lake Michigan. The lawyer's voice droned through legal jargon, but I barely heard a word. My eyes stayed on Emily. She tapped her manicured nails against the table, impatient. She thought she had won, but then the lawyer paused. "As per Mr. Michael Jordan's final wishes, a significant portion of his estate shall be held in trust, pending investigation of circumstances surrounding his death." The color drained from Emily's face. She swayed, then collapsed to the floor in a faint. Gasps filled the room. While others rushed to help her, I slid Eddie's photos across the polished wood to the lawyer. "My car was sabotaged last night," I said quietly, "by the same person who orchestrated Michael's death." His eyes widened as he scanned the images. "We need to contact the authorities immediately." Police arrived within the hour. Tom provided his witness statement. Eddie delivered his photos. The officer in charge listened carefully, his jaw tightening as the pieces fell into place. Emily protested, sobbing, shouting, calling me a liar, but her words only dug her deeper. The evidence was undeniable. She was arrested that afternoon for attempted homicide and placed under investigation for poisoning. As I left the law firm, the lake shimmered in the distance. For the first time since Michael's death, I felt a measure of peace. Justice was beginning, even if it could never bring him back. I thought of Tom, whose vigilance had saved me, of Eddie, whose careful eye had uncovered the truth, and of Michael, whose warning text I had ignored until it was almost too late. This story isn't just about greed or money. It's about vigilance. Evil often hides in plain sight, behind smiles, behind tears, behind wedding rings. If you ever feel that something doesn't add up, trust your instincts. Document everything. Ask questions. Because sometimes, a single warning shouted across a lawn can change everything. To my son, Michael, your work protected millions. And now, your story will protect others. And to anyone watching, family, trust, and truth are worth more than any fortune. Don't let greed blind you to the dangers closest to home.